I started visiting the church more, but not for prayers. Whenever he thought I was at home resting, I was digging, going through old records, checking offering baskets, watching his movement like a hawk. It didn't take long to find things that didn't add up. Unexplained withdrawals from church building funds, new projects that only existed on papers, special prayer sessions with rich widows behind closed doors. The web was wider than I thought. And my husband, he wasn't just a player. He was the spider sitting comfortably in the center. One evening, while cleaning a vestry, I noticed a key sticking out behind one of the ancient Bibles. Curious, I pocketed it. Later that night, after choir practice ended, I snuck back alone. The key fit a hidden storage room behind the altar. Inside, my mouth fell open. Stack of fake anointing oils labeled Heaven's Blessing, 50,000 naira only. Printed fake prophecies ready to be sold. Cash bundles hidden in dirty shoe bags. Tears streamed down my eyes. This was not just betrayal. This was blasphemy. He was using God's house as a market for sin. I wasn't alone. As I turned to leave the hidden room, I bumped straight into Deaconess Fimi, one of the oldest women in the church. I gasped, but instead of shouting, she pressed a finger on her lips. I know, she whispered. I had been watching him too, but I needed proof. I stared at her in shock. You must be careful, Adeze, she said urgently. This man is dangerous. He is not walking alone. There are bigger hands behind him. Bigger hands? The thought chilled to the bone. Who else was playing this game of betrayal? Deaconess Fumi promised to help me expose him. We made a plan, gathered evidence quietly, then go to the elders. But betrayal has many faces. 2 nights later, after choir vigil, masked men broke into my father's house. They ransacked his study. They beat the night guard to a gulp. They stole nothing, but they left a message. On my father's desk, they wrote in red paint, "Stay silent or bury your daughter." I knew immediately. Deaconess Fumi had betrayed me. She had sold me out to them. And now, the war had begun. The village buzzed with another announcement. Brother Choka to be ordained as youth pastor. I nearly collapsed when I heard it. Ordained? In my father's church? It was the final move in this master's plan. With that little, he would have total access to the offering box, to the tithes, to the trust of hundreds of souls. And the worst, it would stain my father's name forever if the truth came out later. I watched him from across the church that Sunday. He smiled at me, but this time I didn't smile back. I tightened my fist. He had declared war, and I was ready, even if it cost me everything. I knew exposing him wouldn't be easy. He had charmed the entire church. The elders adored him. The women admired him. The men trusted him. If I came out screaming like no proof, they would call me bitter, or worse, a jealous wife. No, I needed solid evidence, something undeniable. And so I began recording. Hidden audio recorder tucked into my purse. Cameras inside my Bible cover. I gathered small, deadly piece of his evil, one whispered at a time. The hunter was now being hunted. The most surprising help came from the least person I expected. Pastor Jonah, my father's assistant. He called me aside one afternoon, his face grave. Adeze, I don't know everything, but something about Brother Choka has never sat well with my spirit. He said, if you need help, I'm here. I almost wept. At last, a true ally. Together, we will build a plan, collect more evidence, delay the ordination, gather witnesses, strike when the enemy least expected it. But the enemy was also watching, and he had plans of his own. One evening, While pretending to clean his desk, I stumbled upon a file hidden between hymn books. Curious, I opened it. What I saw turned my blood cold. Another marriage certificate and another woman's name. Another wife in another village, married 2 years ago. I stared at the paper, my hands trembling violently. No, no, I whispered. Tears blinded me. It wasn't just fraud. It wasn't just scamming. It was bigamy. He had married me while still married to someone else. And worse, that meant our marriage, in the eyes of the law and God, was a lie. The day of his ordination arrived like a funeral drum in my heart. The church was packed. The choir sang loud. The women danced in colorful wrappers. My father, proud and blind, stood on the altar holding the anointing oil. And there he was, Brother Chuka, dressed in flowing white, smiling like a wolf in cheap clothes. My stomach churned. The recorder was hidden safely. Pastor Jonah was ready. The witnesses were planted among the congregation. I prayed a silent prayer. God, today, let the truth roar like a thunder. The ordination started. He knelt before my father, pretending to cry, lifting his hands to heaven. My father opened the Bible. I stood up quietly, stopped the ordination. I cried, my voice shaking. Gasp filled the altar and the church. Eyes turned to me. Chuka's face froze. Before anyone could speak, Pastor Jonah played the recording over the church loudspeaker. His fake prophecies, his scams, his betrayals. The church erupted into chaos. Women screamed. Men shouted. Children cried. Chuka tried to run, but two strong brothers grabbed him. And in that moment, as he struggled like a captured fox, I realized justice had finally begun, but the war was far from over. The church scattered like dry leaves in a storm. Some women fainted. Some elders began shouting at each other. How could this happen? Who brought this thief into our midst? My father stood frozen on the altar, the anointing oil bottle slipping off from his hand and crashing on the floor. Chuka struggled against the brothers holding him, his face twisted with rage. No response. Rage. You fools, he screamed. All of you are hypocrites. You use God's name too. The mask has fully fallen. The devil no longer hid behind the robe. And the sheep of the church looked around, lost and afraid. That night, Pastor Jonah summoned me urgently. Adaeze, he said, voice low, Chuka is not walking alone. There is a bigger hand, someone from your father's council of elders. I gasped. One of the elders? I whispered. He nodded grimly. They planted Chuka to bring down your father's ministry and seize power for themselves. The ground beneath me seemed to shake. The betrayal was deeper than I thought. It wasn't just Chuka. It was inside our walls. The enemy had been sitting at our table, smiling and eating with us, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I found my father sitting alone in the empty church that night. He looked smaller somehow, his once proud shoulders slumped. I failed. Adaeze, he said quietly, I brought a wolf into God's house. I endangered my people. I endangered you. Tears streamed down my cheeks. You didn't fail, Papa. I whispered. Evil wears many disguises. You try to see the best in him. That is not weakness. But deep inside, my father ached because the damage was done. The trust was broken. The name our family had built for 30 years had been dragged through the mud, and the village was already whispering. The next morning brought a fresh wound. News broke that my own cousin, Elder Eze, was the real mastermind behind it all. He had plotted to destroy my father's ministry so he could start his own church and steal the congregation. He had recruited Chuka, paid him, and protected him. Blood had betrayed blood. When my father heard, he collapsed. It took 3 men to carry him into the house. I sat behind his sick bed, holding his hand. burning with rage and sorrow. How could family do this? I wept. There was no answer. Sometimes it is not strangers that destroy you, it is the ones who know where your heart beats. Pastor Jonah gathered the loyal members. We had two choices. One, to expose Elder Eze publicly, dragging the entire family's name through deeper mud. Two,